It's like we are playing EA Sports NHL Be a GM Simulator. Because today, we're getting back into the trade talk swing of things, baby. For the Vancouver Canucks, they had themselves an off-season with very little movement. Yes, it's true, they traded away Dakota Joshua. Yes, it's true, they were on the hunt for a second-line center that never came. But there were guys that they were interested in. And one of those names in the Minnesota Wild organization, he made headlines throughout the course of the summer months. We spoke about this guy a lot. Today, we are revisiting the Marco Rossi sweepstakes with Minnesota, because it's just been revealed by Irfan Gaffar on CanucksArmy.com just what exactly the offer was that Minnesota proposed to Vancouver. To which Patrick Allvin and Rutherford apparently said no. So, we're going to leave a link in the description to this article right here. It was published earlier this morning by Irfan Gaffar on Canucks Army. Irf's monthly Canucks musings, Sherwood's next contract, the hunt for a center, and more. Irfan Gaffar, of course, has done various work on different hockey broadcasting platforms, so he's pretty legit, as all legit insiders come and go. And this article will be linked in the description if you want to go out there and read it yourself. There are a few pretty good write-ups in here. He talks about goaltending, he talks about Sherwood, and then he talks about the centers. This is where we dive into the very intriguing conversation as to Marco Rossi and the Minnesota Wild. Let's go out there and read this excerpt from the article. There's no secret that the Vancouver Canucks will want to try and improve their team at center ice, but it's going to take some time. Moves for top centers don't just happen. Teams aren't willing to part ways with players early in the season, and to be honest, no one really wants to make a move right now. For a top center, the Canucks would probably have to give up one of Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Elias Pettersson, or Tom Willander, none of which I think they want to do. When the Marco Rossi conversation was going on, apparently the Minnesota Wild wanted Tom Willander, and that didn't happen. Then, someone told me it was 15th overall, Aatu Räty, and Artur Silayev for Rossi, which the Canucks also said no to. Good for them. There would have been no Braden Coots had that deal gone through. In the end, the Canucks have what they have now and will be keeping a close eye on looking to improve. And if history is any indication of anything, this management group isn't afraid of making moves. Now that is quite the intriguing conversation. I'm not gonna lie, when you think about the two trade proposals that were on the table that Vancouver said no to, the second one makes a little less sense with hindsight. Because obviously, Vancouver trading away Aatu Räty, 15th overall, and Artur Silayev for Rossi, that would have been quite debilitating when you think about what the Canucks have on their roster now. Braden Coots and Aatu Räty are centers who made the team. So when you think about it like that, alright, you would swap Coots and Räty for one Rossi. You toss in Artur Silayev there as well. I mean, good for Silayev to go over to Pittsburgh and get himself the start and the shutout against JT Miller's New York Rangers, but Silayev would not have gotten that opportunity with the Minnesota Wild. Filip Gustavsson re-signed a pretty hefty contract a few days ago, so he would play behind Gustavsson. Meanwhile, you think about the first deal that was reportedly on the table, Rossi for Willander. Seems like it's a one-for-one. I would assume that Willander's trade value is more than that of a 15th overall pick in Räty and Artur Silayev, just because Willander has been highly touted the past few years. Honestly, when you think about how the Canucks sent Willander down, how he wasn't necessarily ready to be an NHL piece just yet, I kinda reconsider it with 2020 hindsight vision. Think about it. If the Vancouver Canucks trade Willander 1-for-1 for Rossi, They keep Silayev, whom would inevitably get traded to Pittsburgh because they kind of needed to trade him away. There was no use in keeping Silayev on the roster. He was eligible for waivers after all. You keep Shilov, send him away to Pittsburgh, and then you keep Ratu and Coots. All of a sudden, the forward core looks a lot better. You're not having to run Arshdeep Bains in the top 6. You can just keep around some of the other guys. Maybe Coots makes the team as a winger. Maybe Rossi does, or somebody else. If you have Rossi instead of Willander, technically the NHL team doesn't do anything but improve because Willander didn't make the team. Now, of course, we understand that hindsight is 20/20. I'm saying it right here. This is a biased commentary because we know now that Willander didn't make the team and that Coots and Ratu did. But it does kind of get me wondering, like if everybody could tell the future, if you could 100% pinpoint accurately, precisely detail just how skilled a player is at any point in the offseason, then it would be a lot easier to make those decisions on who stays and who goes. I'm not sure necessarily if Vancouver management would have been willing to depart with Tom Willander, but knowing now what we know out of Victor Mancini, that this guy is a very legitimate defenseman prospect that can be valuable in the long term, I kind of wonder what Vancouver's point of view looks like there. Because longer term, you will have Phil Hronek. He's signed on for a while. Tom Willander's supposed to be there, and then you have Mancini too. I would probably say that each of those three guys looks like they'll be a lot better than a third pairing player. Maybe Mancini and Willander inevitably take over the 1 and 2 top right-handed spots, and then Hronek, as he gets older, becomes a third pairing guy. Who really knows? But hindsight gives us the opportunity to analyze what the Vancouver Canucks would have looked like if they just added Marco Rossi to this team, because Tom Willander is not on the team. So imagining that trade, assuming 1-for-1, would have been pretty interesting here. But also, it does make sense when you think about the rejected side of it all, how Vancouver said no, they wanted to keep Willander, they didn't think that maybe Rossi was valuable enough to cover what the scope was that Willander had. And then you also had the other package that was discussed as well. Ratu, Shilovs, and the 15th overall pick, which inevitably became Braden Coots. Props to Patrick Allvin for standing his ground and not saying yes. 15th overall doesn't seem like that big of a pick, but when you think about how it literally gave Vancouver their first 18-year-old opening night roster player since Peter Nedved 30 years ago, I mean, it's quite historical now, isn't it? We'll see how Braden Coots, Aatu Ratu, and the like perform in today's very first NHL game of the season against the Calgary Flames. Flames are coming off of a back-to-back, so we'll see whether or not the guys are able to put together some results. But if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you did not, then hey, the dislike button is down there for you as well. Comments help out with the algorithm, so I'd really appreciate it if you got involved there. What are your thoughts on this rejected trade by the Vancouver Canucks and Minnesota Wild? Thank you to Irfan Ghaffar for revealing it to us. Article is going to be in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.